requirement of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act has been complied with, and that adequate advance and notice of this meeting was given at least 48 hours in advance on June 20th and 21st, 2017. Notice was mailed to the Courier Post and the Aldea. Notice was also posted on the bulletin board located by the reception desk at the central office and all school building bulletin boards within the district.
As I call your name, please say present if you're here. Ms. Teresa Atwood. Ms. Catherine Blackshear. Mr. Jose Brito Bueno. Ms. Dorothy Burley. Ms. Taisha Manir. Mr. Wasim Mohammed. Mrs. Felicia Reyes Morton. Mrs. Martha Wilson. I'm also going to call the roll for the student representatives. Ibn Cole Brim. Excuse me. Ibn Coleman. Maya Cone. Maya Cone. My apologies. Xavier. Camille Holloman.
Oh, it's Kyra.
Kyra Coleman.
She's not here.
Yasmin Trueblood. Siani Davis. Wesley Taveras. Jairo Ramos. Renee Powell.
We have new Woodrow. And we should just cross his name out. But
Okay.
Liam Richards.
All right, Liam Richardson.
All right, we're going to begin with the, I'm sorry.
Now turn it over to the hand of our superintendent.
All right, we're going to come down for the superintendent's presentation. Okay, good evening, everyone. I want to begin with a moment of silence and recognition, or I should say just to remember Layla Cruz, an 8-year-old who passed away recently. She lived in North Camden. She was a member of the Camden school community. She was last with Mastery School. And just want to begin tonight's meeting with a moment of silence for Layla. Thank you. Okay, so a number of updates. I want to begin with an update on Cream School. So I think a number of you all were actually at the family meeting last week where we answered some questions directly with family members, but also we've been coordinating with the staff as well. And just to kind of cut to the chase, we are on track to move back into Cream at the start of this upcoming school year, the fall of 2018. And the key item that we had to get squared away is the capital repairs needed in the building. The building is actually in perfectly good shape. We could move in tomorrow if we'd like, but I think that would be very disruptive to the school community. Probably just as importantly, the building is still susceptible to inclement weather. And so we've got to get the building warmer. In order to do that, it needs new heating systems, in addition to the work that needs to happen to the pipes in the attic. So those are capital repairs, which, as I mentioned before, that is not in the district's budget. That is the School Development Authority's responsibility, and we've been coordinating with them to ensure that they move forward with that project. And at this point, we can confidently state that we are moving forward with that project and that the school will be able to move back into its home with those repairs underway in advance of colder weather next year. And as you can imagine, the families were very relieved to hear that news. All right, a few other updates here. School safety. Clearly, this has been top of mind after the tragedy in Florida. And so we just wanted to let you all know, because certainly I've had a lot of people come up to me asking questions, staff members, students, community members. All of our schools each has an individualized emergency management plan that's been submitted to the Office of School Safety at the Department of Education at the start of this school year, at the start of every school year. And so these plans identify specific staff members along with their roles and responsibilities during an emergency. So school emergency plans are shared also with the Camden County Police Department, and this allows the department to take advantage of viewing security drills and providing us feedback. So we've also further partnered with Metro, with Camden County Police Department, by providing them access to our surveillance cameras. So especially in the event of an active shooter, they can immediately identify where that shooter is in a building, and just that access gives us additional safety and comfort. So this is through our MOU with the Camden County Police Department. And I think, as all of you all know, our schools are equipped with surveillance cameras. The vast majority have access badging, and the very few that don't, we're still working toward completing that. So I know that certain schools have had specific questions about specifics of their drills, about access to buildings, and we've responded to those on a case-by-case basis. We've sent Terry Allen, our Director of School Security, to go and meet with staff across all of our schools as those questions have come up. So I want to thank Director Allen for her hard work, and I just want you all to know that all the questions that have come up, we've certainly addressed them. We believe the foundation that we have is a good one. At the same time, we always want to make sure that we have all the systems in place to make sure that we're prepared in the event of an emergency situation. Okay, we want to give you all a couple updates, one on gifted and talented, and the second on SAT and FAFSA. So I'm going to welcome up our Deputy Superintendent, Katrina McCombs, to provide you those two updates. I'll flip it for you.
Thank you for the opportunity to share some updates on gifted and talented. So just want to share a few steps that we've made progress on with regard to this this undertaking. So we have settled on an assessment that will be utilized to help us to screen our gifted and talented students. That assessment is the Nagliari nonverbal assessment. The reason that assessment was selected is because it is not biased towards students who may be English language learners or students who may have special needs that are nonverbal. It does not bias us from being able to assess whether or not they are gifted and talented. So we are looking forward to testing in the month of March approximately 225 students in grades 2 through 4. We've selected 2 pilot locations, Caddo School and also H.B. Wilson. These are just the pilot locations so that we can learn from the pilot and then expand. Even though the Nagliari assessment is being utilized to help us screen, it is not the only indicator. It is not the sole indicator to determine whether or not a student would have access to gifted and talented programming. There is also a work group that has been meeting, but it has been expanded, and they had a meeting today to continue to discuss the curriculum development, the criteria for selection, scheduling, the program description, as well as the job descriptions for our gifted and talented teachers. And the final point there is we are collaborating. We want to look at best practices as we're building this program. So we are collaborating with the Mount Laurel School District, who will support us in an exchange of information so that as we're developing the curriculum, we also are looking outside of the district as well in areas for best practice. That's okay. And with regard to SAT and FAFSA completion, our high school team has been working diligently, and we have college career readiness goals. So this slide shows on the left-hand side, with regard to SAT, rates of students who have participated in SAT. You can see that BPLA, Canva, Brim, Camden High, and Woodrow Wilson are listed there. We are pleased to announce that all of the participation rates for SAT have increased. So you see Camden and Brim at 100% of students who have taken the SAT at least once, BPLA at 94%, but our comprehensive high schools, Camden High and Woodrow Wilson, are to be commended. The teams there, along with the college career readiness personnel and counselors, who have supported and driven a 78% and 70%, which is by far a higher percentage rate of participation, and we are not finished. And the second piece of this slide just highlights for us the FAFSA completion rate. And if you take a look at last year's FAFSA completion rate and this year's FAFSA completion rate, you can see in almost all of our schools there is an increase. The goal that has been set by our high school team is that 75% of students will have completed the FAFSA, and we are not finished supporting students in that work, and we're not finished documenting. So we will be able to provide updates at a later time with regard to that. But we're making progress. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. McCombs. All right, I want to give a budget update, which I mentioned at the last board meeting. We, as you all know, provide our fuller budget update in March, and this year we wanted to get that news out sooner because we know there are always a lot of questions about the budget. We actually sent out an all-staff email earlier today, so what I'm going to mention here summarizes more or less what was in that all-staff email about our budget. So this first slide here, and I know that the colors are a little bit hard to see here, but this is our last 3 years of enrollment. So this being the current year, this is as of the October 13th ASA enrollment figures. And so projected enrollment next year is currently roughly 6,400 students. The lighter bars on top, so these numbers right here represent Renaissance schools, and then charters are on top of that. And so as you all know, the budget is very much driven by enrollments. We have to think about the projections that we're making. And so this is our best estimate given the information at our disposal currently. And the punchline here, just to kind of lead with the answer, is that we this year, and there are still a lot of open questions, not the least of which being we are advocating for additional aid from the state. So each of the last 2 years we've received an additional allotment of aid. They call it host district aid from the Department of Education, from the state. And so this year we're asking for that same aid to be able to support our budget. And so we have to figure that out. But even with that open question, what I can tell you right now is we are conservatively projecting a spending adjustment, so an expenditure reduction of roughly $29 million. This compares favorably to previous years. So previous years we have been $40 million or higher. If you go back 3 years, it was a $75 million adjustment we had to make. So 29 is, relatively speaking, much lower, and it could potentially go even lower, depending upon those outstanding questions that I just referenced. And so, a few takeaways here. We believe that we can offset much of this gap by non-personnel reductions and, for example, renegotiating vendor contracts to be able to bring down our spending and to ensure that we do everything possible to avoid personnel reductions. That's not to say there won't be any personnel reductions. As in years past, we've certainly had to make those difficult decisions, but this year, especially if we are able to get the aid again from the state, this year we believe we're in a more favorable position. And one thing that I mentioned in the email earlier today is that there will be no school closures or consolidations this year. So one way to look at the way that we are spending our budget is to analyze the percentage of the budget next year by school type. So the district represents roughly 42% of the total students. You got Renaissance schools at 28 and charter at 30. And of the overall budget, even though the district's 42%, we're getting 56% of the overall share. So always want to make that point clear because our per pupil funding is significantly higher than charter and Renaissance schools. And that again helps offset some of the challenges we would otherwise see with slightly declining enrollment. Okay. Quick CUSAC update. So in addition to the official CUSAC reviews in 14-15, the county performed an interim review to monitor the progress between the major 3 CUSAC cycles. So that interim review was split into 2 visits that happened during February and June of 2017, and we just now received those results. So the results here are for the interim review. And so even though we just got those results in order of timing, they still fall before the self-assessment we also recently did. So if you look at the 14-15 results, and then you look at kind of the trends heading into the 17-18, the interim results basically fell right in line. They fell kind of in the middle. One exception is fiscal management. And as I mentioned before, with fiscal management, there are basically 2 items that have to do with facilities that once we submit them, one is the LRFP, once we submit them, and that's actually going to happen very soon, it's going to boost the score up fairly significantly, at least to 64, likely higher to 70. But as you can see with everywhere else, we're moving up. And our self-assessment has always been in line with where the county has ultimately graded us. And I think that's really important to call out. As you see a couple indicators at 90 and 80, we are hopeful that the county will agree with those scores especially. And so the progress there is noted. The central office, as we've mentioned, is moving. And so the move to the new location at the Washington building will begin next month, and it will happen over the course of March 2nd to March 9th. And I want to just take this opportunity to mention that based on feedback from our board members, we are simultaneously working on opening a satellite solution center in the Parkside neighborhood so that there's a greater accessibility to central office staff for families who may not be able to get to the Washington school as easily. And so more information, including final location, hours of operation, launch date, et cetera, will be available on the district Facebook page and website. And so staff with existing solutions, with the existing Solution Center staff, right now we are expecting to be working the satellite office from about 3 days a week in the mornings from 9 o'clock to noon. But again, those details, we're going to put them on our Facebook page. And I want to thank our board members again for that feedback. All right, just a few district highlights to close things out. So Woodrow Wilson and Camden High teamed up to compete in the Institute of Automation's Engineer Week. So these are some pictures from that competition. And a shout out to a number of our students who received recognitions for their work, and for Dr. Williams for mentoring those students. This was our annual Bookmates event. So this happened at the Dudley School, and Bookmates partners, as I think a lot of you all know, with Camden County Police Department for a program that is that's fundamentally focused on reading, but also just building strong relationships between the community and the Camden County Police Department. So just a big thank you to Camden County Police Department and all of their volunteers who are at the Dudley School every single week reading 30 minutes with each of their buddies. The Sharp students got a special visit from the Philly Fanatic. We just wanted to share that. And the idea there was to celebrate the Sharp students hitting their target of reading 40,000 pages this year. And congrats to seniors across the district that are starting to receive their college acceptance letters. There's a lot of love on Facebook and Twitter as each of our students get their acceptance letters. And here are some of the students from the Brim class of 2018 who are headed to college. We had a really wonderful Back on Track event where a number of our school-based staff, whether it was a dean of culture and climate or a dropout prevention officer who nominated students who were off track, meaning combination of attendance and discipline challenges, and then they turned things around over the course of the year. And so we recognized 30 of those students, and we also honored those staff members who really helped those students get back on track. So it was a really, really nice event. and we will honor and recognize our retirees back on stage. Thank you.
At this time, we will have Ms. Taisha Munir mention our retirees.
On behalf of the Camden School Board of Education and behalf of the superintendent, we want to thank all our retirees. Naomi McCressman, 17 years. Ruth Ferry, 25 years. Sharon O'Brien, 12 years. Carmen Ortiz, 35 years. Sol Ángela Rivera, 35 years. Wilfredo Ubaris, 25 years. Thank you for serving the Camden City School District, and thank you for serving our students.
Thank you, Ms. Munir. At this time, we will call on Superintendent Paimon Harford.
I want to just take a quick moment and introduce to you all Kim Beelan. So Kim, who is 2 over from my left, your right, has joined as our board solicitor. Kim is a partner at Florio Perucci. And in that capacity as partner, and really, I just want to mention over her entire experience, she's been in education law for 30 plus years, and she's really hit the ground running. She's already a constant in our on the 7th floor, working across all of our teams, and we're just really grateful for her support, and she will be joining us at our board meetings moving forward. So please help me in welcoming Kim to the team. I think we're going to now have our student board representatives speak.
Thank you. All right, so at Brim, our SAT class is pretty good. Our teacher, she's pretty patient with us, so like she takes her time out, she thoroughly goes through all the work, whether it's math or it's language arts. Also, we have programs at Brim that's a lot of kids are getting accepted into. Like we got one with the osteopathic medical school, and we got one with the medical school here in Camden. So basically, you get a scholarship going to these schools, and it's like you're in medical school yourself, and you get that experience. Another one is you get a stipend at the end of the program. Like you get paid like $10 an hour, and you work like 20-hour shifts, and it's at CHOP. So that's Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. So you work with the surgeon, wherever you want to work with, and you just follow them around. So yeah, that's it.
I wanted to congratulate the college access team because we have programs like dual enrollment that the juniors can take advantage of. And we also have a psychology class starting tomorrow at our school. It's 3 credits. And there's a lot of college acceptances coming in from our senior class. Also, our senior seminar is flowing pretty well. There's time to do scholarships, and we're actually reading a book called The New Jim Crow. The summit program for the freshmen, I'm not pretty educated about that, but I know it's like a new way of learning, and they have integrations with technology and things. But that was all. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Xavier Diaz. I'm the representative for Camden High School. I'll go over the pros, and my partner will go over the cons. All right. So for the pro, this past Saturday, we held the Military Orders of World War Youth Leadership One-Day Conference at our school. So we hosted different JLTC programs from Salem to Manchester, and they all came to our school, and we got to do a little seminar on leadership and how leadership is defined and stuff like that. So it was a pretty good event. The people who were there participated in like a Shark Tank event where we had to be innovative and create new things and work as a team. So that was pretty good. Also for the JLTC program, we went to Merck, which if you don't know, is a pharmaceutical company, right? So they're a big-time pharmaceutical company, and we got to meet with their CEO. So we had to sit down with him and his team. So the chief of tax and some of the other accounting majors that he had in there. So we got to talk about like different aspects about the new tax plan and about what the net neutrality would do for their advertising and things of that nature. So it was a good experience to meet them. And the CEO was more relatable than I thought he would be. He grew up in North Philly. We grew up in Camden, pretty much same area. So he's more relatable than most CEOs that are in Fortune 500 companies. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll pass it off to my person.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Camille, and I'm also a student board rep at Camden High School. And to continue from where Xavier left off, another pro, which we have, the seniors are now taking initiative. They're taking responsibility in their own hands, where they're coming to senior seminar class. They talked to Mr. Nelthrow about college acceptances, where do they, as far as like where they want to go after they graduate high school. So postgraduate options that they have, the schools that they're getting accepted to, colleges, scholarships, they're taking that into their own hands. And speaking of senior seminar, Mr. Nelthrow, along with two other volunteers, Ms. Joy and Ms. Ashley from Family Services, decided to split us into groups so that way they could work with us like one-on-one in classrooms, so that way it'll be easier to manage. And one concern that I have is with the scheduling, because I have students come to me expressing concerns about the schedule as far as having extra classes, extra courses, and not having the classes that they actually want on their schedule. Thank you.
I'm Courtney Davis. I'm from Woodrow Wilson.
And I'm Leon Richardson, also a school representative for Wilson.
I'm going to be doing the pros. Some of our pros horrible grammar. Some of our pros are that we've had in the past few months, we're expressing more culture and more diversity in the school, and breaking more barriers that we sort of kind of needed to break. We had our Valentine's dance, which was a big hit, and it was the first time I've actually seen our school come together as a unit and have fun without arguments and fighting. What else? Yeah, here you go.
Our school has improved immensely since last year. I honestly believe our new principal has been doing wonders to the school. It's changed in a very positive way, but there's still some things to the school that I wish were improved. I think we should have more funding for better technology. That'd be nice, so we can teach the rest of the students. Some need a little bit more attention, and our teachers could really use that advantage, which would really help. I also believe there should be more disciplinary action towards the students, which I have also seen but still need some work on. But besides that, I think the school has been improving a lot. There has been less suspensions and out-of-school suspensions, and it's been really good. I feel that the graduation rate has improved a lot since last year. I mean, not last year, 2 years ago, compared to last year. So that was pretty good. The senior seminar class is going well. We've been learning lots and also getting lots more scholarship offers. So it's been going pretty smoothly.
Hello, I'm Wesley Taveras, and I'm representing Creative Arts American Village High School. I am the substitute. Unfortunately, the primary person, Siani Davis, could not be here. So I'm going to first talk about our areas of strength in our school. So our school has around maybe 300 students, which is actually kind of small. So our teachers actually have really good relationships with us. Like, our principal knows each one of our faces, and we're none of us, we're not numbers, as where some schools we might be, but not in this school. So we have really good bondings with our teachers. Like, I know oftentimes if I ever am feeling a little down, I'll just go to one of my teachers and start talking to them. They even sometimes talk to me about how they feel about the class, and I also talk about that to them, and we just get along. And this isn't just me. I see this with every student in the school. I would also like to acknowledge that some extracurricular activities that we have. Similar to Bryn Medical Arts, we now have an SAT course and SAT practice, excuse me, which is really good because that's something our school was lacking previously. We also have a dual enrollment class, which I'm currently enrolled in, and it's really good. I really like having the experience to learn something that our school doesn't normally teach, and I'm actually able to apply in everyday life because I'm seeing how we as humans think, and I get to see it every day, and I'm applying it, I'm learning, and also the 3 college credits are pretty good as well. Now, on to the bad stuff. So, this year we have been having a bi-weekly test for multiple subjects that in memory escapes me. I believe they're called DOQs. And those are very disruptive and intrusive onto the classes which they're held in, because in our school, especially now because we're going into the PARC and SAT testing, our teachers are preparing us for those tests, and they also have to prepare us for the bi-weekly test. So there's not much room left for the actual curriculum. And this was happening before the testing, before the PARC testing and all that stuff, all that practice. Before then, this was still an issue. For example, my math teacher, she would have to rent out the library, which wasn't always guaranteed, just so we could take these DOQs. A lot of us couldn't even finish because the computers were really slow, and also she never had the time to go over all the stuff that would be on the DOQ because she still had to teach her curriculum and all that. So it really hinders what they can teach as teachers. And I hope that it can get reduced, maybe once a month testing. We used to have that actually, and it would flow pretty well. That's all.
Okay, we're now going to move to public comment.
Excuse me, just
Please.
a moment. Minister Wasim?
I just wanted to, thank you, Madam President, Superintendent. I just want to acknowledge our young people who are here, who I say spoke so well, and their pros and cons and what you're doing for. I just want to encourage you, because I know a lot of times before we get to talk, some of you are, you leave because you have school the next morning. But I just want to keep encouraging you all to continue to be who you are, that the time we're living in is your day. It's your time, and stand up. And I know sometimes you have to speak where people can listen, but sometimes also you got to shake the door a little bit, because we're fighting a system of a world that has been totally against black and brown people. So take heed to all the examples that you see in front of you, and always choose a winner. And as long as choosing a winner is not compromising your principles and your integrity, always choose a winner. And then also, as you can see, I want to continue to encourage you that as you see young people changing the world with the recent gun violence that we've seen in Florida, unfortunately, that unfortunate situation is young people who's making an impact that's changing the world. I want you all as black and brown people to continue to do so and get right in line with that alignment, because this is your day. And as much as we like athletes and entertainers, And me being a former athlete, I'm not speaking against that. That's what got me to the dance, that we can look at people in our community who look like us, other than athletes and entertainers, and that's what you represent. You represent the leadership, and until we change the head, when something is giving birth, like a mother's giving birth to a child, that baby got to turn around first in order for a proper, childbirth to be reared correctly. We have to change that baby, that forging of this new day for our people have to be changed with you. We have to push you all to the forefront. We love our athletes and entertainers, but we got to push you all to the forefront. And I just want to encourage you all with that.
Thank you, Minister Wesson. Ms. Taj Manir.
I just want to thank the superintendent for actually putting the sinks in Woodrow Wilson High School for the cosmetology program. So woo-hoo to that. We're also going to be working closely with the program so that way we can have it up and running and have it running the way it should be. So it is taking time, but it's here to stay. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for your advocacy.
At this time, we will turn the meeting over to the business administrator.
The Camden City School District welcomes the attendance and comments from all members of the public at its meetings. This public comment period is your time to be heard on the agenda items in this meeting. Each person who signed up to comment will have 3 minutes. You will be notified when your 3 minutes are up. You cannot yield your time to another person. When it is your turn to speak, please remain at the podium and address all of your comments to the board president or the superintendent. Please conduct yourself in a respectful and courteous manner. For anyone whose comments or actions either harass, intimidate, or threaten the safety of any person, we will provide you with a warning or immediately end your comment time. Also, if you curse, use vulgar language, or make personal attacks, we will provide you with a warning and end your comment time. We will not interrupt you during your 3 minutes of comments. Members of the audience should also not interrupt the speaker at the podium. If you have any questions, please ask your questions during your 3-minute comment period. After the public comment period is closed, the superintendent or his designee will address your questions to the extent provided by the law. Also, when you approach the podium, please state your name and address. Mario Perez.
Good evening. How are you guys doing? My name is Mario Perez. I'm a parent advocate leader, Parents for Great Camden Schools.
Can you state your address for us, please? Your name and address.
I have to say my address? Okay. PGS and I have adopted Yorkshire School to host 2 parent engagement trainings and many neighborhood meetings, where parents share their thoughts and concerns to make the schools even better. Today, with the help of the FOC Ms. Smalls, we hosted a parent meeting with the superintendent. I want to thank his staff and him for speaking with all the parents and answering their questions. We heard a lot from parents there who were happy with the progress being made at the school. It was good to learn that each school has an individual and specific plan in case of emergency, and that those plans are practiced multiple times each month. I want to thank the superintendent and his staff for joining us this afternoon. I am excited to continue to work with Ms. Smalls and Yorkshire Family School to host more meetings and events.
Thank you, Mr. Perez.
Frank Epifano.
Good evening. Frank Epifano, 16 South Walnut Circle, West Berlin, New Jersey. Also a teacher at Camden Big Picture Boys and Girls Club. Just a few concerns that I've had. We have a teacher shortage, especially with ICR teachers at our building. So students aren't being serviced. Also, because of a lack of subs, regular teachers are asked to cover classes, which we all do, but it's because we're in 2 buildings between the Boys and Girls Club and Hatch. Teachers are actually missing time traveling from their regularly scheduled classes, and they're concerned that that might impact their students, their SGO scores, and their students' education. Because of this lack of subs that are coming, you know, it's not the building principal's fault, it's no teacher's fault, it's the way it is. But these emergency situations of teachers being pulled and ICR teachers being pulled has become what seems to be the new normal. Also today, we had an instance with the fire alarm. On the second floor, we can't hear that fire alarm, and it wasn't a drill. That's a problem. I mean, we have a fire alarm that isn't working. It can't be heard. We also don't have a working PA system in the building, so if there's an active shooter in the building, teachers are scared, staff are scared. You know, especially after what happened in Florida, we're all on edge, and this negligence could very well be the death warrant signed for the students and staff in that building. It's very concerning. I just hope that something's done about that very soon, because we're working every day we go in there, you know, not knowing what's going to happen. Something could happen, you know. We used to say, it doesn't happen that often. When I was a kid, Columbine happened. It was like a very rare occurrence. Now, 18 shootings since the beginning of the year. It's not okay. I don't feel safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Brown Bartlett.
I thought that was the sign-in sheet, that you were just attending the meeting. I don't choose to speak at this time. Thank you.
Kathy Galasson. Sarah Jocelyn.
Sarah Jocelyn. I want to thank the board and the superintendent, and especially the operations staff, for working so hard to allow the BRIM and the Cato students and teachers to participate in the Sustainable New Jersey for Schools grant program. This is a big step forward. And I see that this is an opportunity to increase the amount of awareness and environmental education in the schools. I'm hoping that this is a pilot and is going to move forward into other schools. I realize this is a heavy lift, but it'll be much easier once you go through the first process. I do ask that we consider a broader Earth Day celebration than those schools that are participating in Sustainable New Jersey for Schools. I think environmental education is critical for students in today's world, and as Camden is a sustainable New Jersey city, we need to increase that awareness among our students. I was not familiar with the term that was mentioned by our young people for their testing, the DOQ. So I would like to have some clarification on what that is. It just was not a term that was familiar with me. So please let me know. Anything that is causing a loss of ability to complete a required curriculum needs to be a concern for all of us. We would like our students to have the opportunity to achieve the curriculum that is posted. And I realize there are required testing. I'm hoping that we will have full participation in PARCC. I like the opportunity to review the scores by school. This year's presentation on the website is much, much better, makes it very clear what's going on. And so I advise people to take a look at this. My understanding is that the district report at the State Board of Education will be next Wednesday, and I encourage people to attend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly Francis.
Good evening, board members. Kelly Francis, 1260 Magnolia Avenue, Camden. I had the opportunity this month to attend the African American History Celebration that was sponsored by the city and the mayor, and our new mayor. and it was very exciting. Of course, I've studied African American history just all my life, having been born in the South during the days of segregation and discrimination. So we were taught our history every day because we were in segregated schools, and our teachers made a point to that we knew our history. But I was disappointed that I don't recall seeing you there, Mr. Rahanapar. It was an excellent opportunity for you to have learned something about African American history and also about the history of the African American people in the city of Camden. At that celebration, there were 3 Tuskegee Airmen who were honored during the ceremony. And one of those Tuskegee Airmen was from the city of Camden, Mr. Dickerson. And the other was, I believe, was from Philadelphia, and one was from Virginia. Matter of fact, he went to Hampton Institute, which is a couple of miles from where I grew up, in Virginia. But in any event, Mr. Richardson, the Tuskegee Airman from Camden, lived at 9th and Pine Street, and incidentally, I happen to have graduated from Camden High School with his sister, Altonelle Richardson. We were classmates together, and we graduated from Camden High, and Mr. Richardson also is a product of Camden High School, one of the greatest warriors in the history of this country. One of the persons who made it possible for all of us to live in freedom by helping to defeat the Germans over in Europe during the Second World War. Now, if you ever go to Atlantic City, I don't recall exactly what street it is on, but there was at least one African-American Tuskegee Airman from Atlantic City. And in Atlantic City, there is a bronze statue, a life-size bronze statue in a park in Atlantic City honoring the Tuskegee Airmen from Atlantic City. What do we have to honor our great heroes from the city of Camden, and particularly from Camden High School? Nothing. And if things continue the way they're going, we won't even have an edifice that our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren will be able to identify with because of the people who, African Americans who graduated and began their lives from that high school. He's only one example of thousands. As a matter of fact, Robert Burke Johnson, the lawyer who represented Dr. Martin Luther King when he was discriminated in Mapleshade, he was a 1920 graduate of Camden High School.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. Can you please wrap up
But
your
I just
comments?
wanted to point out, I was very disappointed that you didn't attend that celebration, and also you didn't attend the Caddo celebration in Philadelphia when they unveiled the statue. So you're very deficient as far as knowledge of African American history when you had several opportunities to avail yourself of that history.
Thank you, Mr. Francis.
Hope Edwards Perez. Hope Edward Perez. Hope Edwards Perry. Sean Brown.
Good evening, everyone. Madam President, Mr. Superintendent. First, to the new lawyer from Florio Pertucci, Starnhart, and Faber. Yeah, I've said it before. Welcome to Camden. As you'll soon see, this is a, excuse me, Payman. As you'll soon see, this is a really unique place. And as I've said to every lawyer that's ever worked for the district, please make sure that your allegiance is to the law and to the students and never to political interest that may have an interest that's separate from benefiting the law or students. You're welcome. All right, few things. First, so we are now at the end of February, so March is the most important month in terms of preparing the budget for the next academic school year, which the superintendent will likely, I guess it would be weird if he didn't pass it since he oversees the process of it, but will pass in April. So between this month and next month, I hope that the community, the board members, student representatives put in their request to make sure that there are line items and specific things that are met in the budget, because it's critical that things that we think are important are paid for, especially since, as you may know, the way Camden gets its money from the state, a lot of times Camden doesn't know how much it's going to get for the next school year until the very last minute when the budget is put in. And on one hand, you have a governor that said he wants to fully fund schools like the Camden School District, but on the other hand, our state has billions of dollars of unfunded mandates related to pensions. So you have that tension there, and we want to make sure that things are paid for. I have two suggestions myself. I don't think either of which will be a surprise to you. Ms. McCombs, you know what the first one is? No? Okay. Gifted and talented. Oh, you said it? I'm really bad at reading lips. And it's the water bottle in the minister's arm. So, but anyway, yeah, gifted, gifted and talented. So I was actually looking in here. I think it's Resolution 7. The district, you're about to approve over $1 million to be spent for students to be sent to specialized schools for students that have severe learning disabilities or behavioral challenges. Over $1 million. I'm not what's been presented to me is that the school district will have 2 schools that it's identified where there will be a gifted and talented program. And I only need to go as far as the room right next door to my bedroom to see that there are gifted and talented children that are in our city, because 2 of them are right next door to me. Ms. Blackshear is chuckling. I think she's met 1 or 2 of them before. We owe our children a curriculum that fits their culture, their identity, but also their intellect and the creativity. And I hope that the superintendent and the business office are there to make sure that it's funded. The other thing, and I think one of the student representatives kind of touched on this earlier, is funny. He said that, the student from Woodrow Wilson said that he's glad the suspensions are down, but discipline is still an issue. And that might seem to be a contradictory to some folks, but it isn't, and I think I know why. Maybe I'm wrong. I think it's because suspensions being down is great, right? And this is one of the few districts throughout the country that's really taken a really aggressive look to make sure that it happens. But on the other hand, there's a really big difference between a vice principal suspending somebody and classroom management. So it seems like there's still a lot of work to do on classroom management. I think I talked about this last month, but the way I said it is classroom norms, so that when a teacher does something or says something, that the students automatically know what to do, not in a way that's robotic or punitive, but in a way that just shows that there's a culture, that there's a real easy way to do things with buy-in from all the students and with teachers that are trained. So also when we think of the budget—
Mr. Brown, could you wrap up your comments, please?
I can. Just real quick, when we think about the budget, let's think about ways that during the summer, towards the end of August, if there are ways that we can empower, train, and teach teachers with what those classroom norms are, so that they can start the next school year off strong, and also support them in discipline. And I'll just tell you real quick, when I was on the board, a lot of people said at that time that when you learn to be a teacher, you take maybe 1 classroom management. But it's just as important as learning pedagogy and the art of teaching, because it helps just have a better environment. I have a few more comments and questions. I'll catch you all after the meeting. Thank you.
Brown.
Jonathan Cooper.
Hello, Jonathan Cooper. First and foremost, before I came here, I actually spoke to the principal at Upper Molina. And I want to thank Mr. Rutherford, because the principal, I spoke to her, she reached out to the principal of Cream Elementary concerning the kids having gym, and she wasn't able to get through. But Mr. Ramaford, you called and made a phone call over to the principal at Cream to make that possible for the kids at Cream. So if it was for Mr. Ramaford, the kids at Cream would not be having gym class. So once again, I want to thank you for reaching out to them and making sure that they got the gym class that they need. Also, I spoke to the CEO of Mastery, and he informed me that the class sizes for each teacher average in Camden is about 26 to 32. I looked online, and that's exceeding the limit, but I need to double check with him as far as I made it specific as is it for one teacher or a teacher and an aide. He said it's for one teacher. So our next meeting is on the 13th of March at McGraw Elementary. So I'm going to ask him again to clarify if it's one teacher or two teachers, because last time I checked, according to New Jersey law, that's exceeding the limit. But I just need to know feedback on that. And also on March the 24th, if you're not aware, there's a rally for March for Our Lives, organized by the students who survived the attack in Florida at Marjorie Stone Douglas. I'm just hoping that it's on a Saturday, so I'm hoping that the Camden School District is supporting the students in that march, because gun safety and specifically school safety should be a top priority. The officer, he's not an officer, but the gentleman that was patrolling there, they said he followed the protocol as far as what happens when there's an armed shooter on the facility. But now we have a administration who's saying they want teachers to have guns, which I think is a horrible idea. So, and honestly, considering what happened in Florida, I would think this place would be packed, because I know there have been some security issues here in Camden, as well as in all other schools. But like I said, I hope that the school district is going to support the students in that, because we do need gun safety, we need gun legislation, we need a ban on assault rifles, because that's what's going on. And just like the teacher that said before, I also grew up in the Columbine generation. I was in high school when Columbine happened, and I remember the fear that we felt, and that was a rare occasion, but now it's starting to become more frequent. So that's it for my comments, and once again, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Amir Khan.
Thanks, man. Springtime. Good evening. You know, a couple things. Well, first of all, let me follow up on some of the things we talked about the last few times we were up here. It kind of ties in with some of the things that Sean mentioned about the suspension rate and classroom management. I do appreciate the district following up with us on that, and met with Ellen Dren and myself and Mr. Stan White, and went real well. We got a report on it today. Didn't get a chance to fully digest it and drill down on it, so we can talk more about that later, but thank you again for following up on that. I do want to follow up on what Kelly Francis talked about as well. It's something we really need here in the city of Camden, just to allow our students to be able to honor the Tuskegee Airmen, especially having someone from here. I think it really touched me tonight when Kelly mentioned that. It just happened to be that my brother, who's from Camden here, went through the district here. Last night was the NAACP Awards, the theater awards in Beverly Hills. And from Camden, the play that he wrote about the Tuskegee Airmen called Fly received 3 nominations, and they received 3 awards for it. And my brother from Camden received the best production. The coveted award last night was the best production award, and he received that again from Camden, written and directed by him, concerning the Tuskegee Airmen. So I think it's something that we really need to look at. Thank you very much. And isn't it great to see, you know, they talk about, can anything good come out of Camden? With a whole lot of good is coming out of Camden, a whole lot of good, and that's one of them. And just also want to just, in closing, mention this. Want to thank the school board, and want to thank Mr. Stan White as well. Tomorrow, because the school board approved it, we'll be taking 300 students to see the movie at the Lowe's movie theater, Black Panther. Students from Yorkshire, H.B. Wilson, Sharp, Dudley, Cream, Forest Hill, Creative Arts, Village Academy, Coopers Point, Veterans, Vets, Davis, Camden Big Picture Learning, and going to see, I don't know if everybody got a chance to see Black Panther, but definitely you want to see it. And it's great to be able to see 300 students tomorrow from Camden School District going to Cherry Hill, going to Lowe's, paid for by the district, so thank you, thank you, thank you. Seeing that movie and then coming back and the teachers actually having discussions with the students about it. You know, when somebody say, well, I wish we can get all the students over there, you'd be surprised what 300 students will do when that word gets around to the others. So again, thank you very much for that, okay? And God bless you, have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Khan.
Okay, so let me just begin by thanking you, Pastor Khan, for your comments just now, and want to give a big shout out to Stan White for organizing this trip. We're proud to partner with you, and Stan has been fighting hard to make sure that this trip gets off the ground, and yeah, we're just proud to be able to support it. So thank you for taking those 300 kids tomorrow. We're going to work with Stan to get him some curricular resources to have a robust conversation with the kids about the movie. So I want to first start by addressing comments from Mr. Epifanio, sorry if I didn't pronounce that right, Frank, about big picture. I'm going to actually have our head of high schools, Anna Chirac, jump in here.
Okay, thanks. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Thanks, Jules. Thank you, Mr. Epifanio, for raising your concerns. I know we just discussed them briefly on Tuesday also when we talked, and your principal has sent out some messaging. Just to update the group, we have been aware that the PA system does need repairs. They are set to be complete within the next 2 to 3 weeks. In the interim, we've ordered walkie-talkies for the entire building, and we are also worked on getting a group texting system up and running amongst the teachers and your staff. I know the previous plan is to use a bullhorn and go through the emergency management plan, which, while it's better than nothing, also I can understand the need for more specific procedures. So we're right there with you, and I'll be sure for you to have all the specific details on the timeline. Yep.
Yeah, the Boys and Girls Club is one of the very few buildings we don't own. And so we've got to work through the landlord. That doesn't mean that the challenges of the building are acceptable. It just means we've got to work through someone else to move them, and sometimes it's not moving at the pace we'd like it to, but we're very well aware of it and appreciate you advocating on behalf of your school, and we're going to keep at it. So there weren't that many specific items that I'm going to respond to. Ms. Jocelyn, you mentioned the DOQs. You heard from the Woodrow Wilson representative, Liam, but really all of our student reps have brought the DOQs up in some shape or form, and we've gotten good feedback from them. So the direct answer to your question in terms of what they are, I mean, it's a formative assessment depending upon the subject, happens once a week or once every 2 weeks. And it's intended to be a brief assessment. So in theory, it should last 15 minutes. As you heard, sometimes if the technology is not working well or if there are kind of other issues in the class, it can take longer than 15 minutes, but it's intended to be a very quick assessment. The assessment is park aligned. So the people who drew up the questions for the assessments are the same individuals who write the questions for park. And so it does help prepare our students for the park test. It is aligned to the standards, but there have been some issues with it. And so we have been taking that feedback in from our students, and we're thinking about potential adjustments for next year. What I always tell the students is when I was in high school, I didn't like taking tests either. So there is, some dose of medicine in terms of the assessments. However, we're very mindful of their feedback, and we have in the past made adjustments to our assessments based on the feedback they provided us. So we're just trying to be thoughtful about it, and we'll follow up accordingly to the extent we make any adjustments next year. And I want to thank the students again for their very insightful commentary. I just want to thank Mr. Brown and Pastor Khan again. So, your commentary and your feedback on classroom management, discipline, making sure the pendulum doesn't swing too far. We encourage that here. Like I've said before, that's the kind of dialogue we should be having here. I'm glad that our team was able to spend some time with you all and look forward to continuing that conversation. Really quickly, Mr. Cooper, the classroom sizes, which I believe you said you got from the CEO of Mastery, 26 to 32, that's not representative of our class sizes here in the district. I'm happy to come grab you and kind of give you more information about our class sizes. They're significantly smaller than that. And pass it over to our board president, our board members if they'd like to make any comments.
At this time, I'd like to call on Ms. Catherine Blackshear.
Mr. Paymont, I would like to know what DOQ stand for.
District online quiz.
Are there any other questions from board members? What's the question, Mr. Brown?
I'm sorry, there was just a slight discrepancy between what the student said, what Ms. Shrek said, and what Mr. Rahana said, unless I misunderstand, which is that if it's there's a big difference between something being park aligned and curriculum aligned, because park and curriculum don't necessarily go in parallel.
That's not true. It's all standards aligned. Park assesses the standards. I should just say standards aligned, not park aligned. I think that would be clearer, right? Yeah.
Okay. Any other board members have any other questions? Okay, at this time, I turn it over to our superintendent, Paymon Rahana.
Actually, I'm going to turn it over to Anissa to present the items.
At this time, I'd like to present the business office, agenda items, and the financial report, which includes the bill list and resolutions for approval.
In accordance with the powers vested in the State District Superintendent under Title 18A, I hereby approve today's superintendent's agenda items and business office agenda items.
At this time, I call for a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
A motion to adjourn the meeting was made by Ms. Blackshear and second by Mr. Mohammed. I will now call the roll. Ms. Teresa Atwood, Ms. Catherine Blackshear, Mr. Jose Brito Bueno, Ms. Dorothy Burley, Ms. Taisha Manir, Mr. Wasim Mohammed,
Yes.
Mrs. Felicia Reyes Morton, and Mrs. Martha Wilson. The meeting is now adjourned.